What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL Transfer Talks video on the channel where we will be discussing all things to do with Game Week 9. If you could all smash a big thumbs up on the video, that would be absolutely fantastic. But first things first, let's start off by talking about this man right here, Reijnders, because at the time of recording, he has been sold by 117,000 FPL managers. And to be honest with you, if you are an FPL manager watching this video right now, I can feel your frustration. I can feel your pain. I do sympathize with you because I am also someone who does own Reijnders, so I get the frustrations. I get why people are selling him, because to me it does seem like this guy has been stinking up the place week in, week out, and right now, even though he's a cheap FPL pick at 5.8 million, right now it just does seem like he is underperforming, right, to what we kind of expect, you know, with Reijnders in these games. And listen, one thing I will say, right, is after I've got my emotions out, right, you guys saw my, reaction video. You guys saw me call him a fraud. You saw me call him a bum and all these things, right? Because I was angry. My head was hot. I was massively frustrated, right? And I had almost just sort of reached my breaking point. But after I let out all my emotions, I wanted to just take a step back for a second and think logically. I wanted to see, am I overreacting, or is just Reijnders actually doing sort of what he's always done in terms of the rate at which he's getting these goals and assists? Because I looked at his sort of AC Milan career, right? And more specifically, I looked at his last season at AC Milan, because previously, throughout his career, Reijnders wasn't necessarily this crazy box crashing striker, that a midfielder that scored a lot of goals, right? So he kind of changed his play style, and last season at AC Milan, he got 10 goals and 5 assists in 37 games, right? And what that basically means is that at his time during AC Milan, right, he managed to get one attacking return, or he averaged one attacking return in every 3 games. So he's a 1-3 player when it comes to getting attacking returns, a goal or an assist every 3 games. So that's the rate he was performing at last season at AC Milan. So then I thought, okay, cool, that's what he was doing at AC Milan. Is he performing to that same standard? Is he getting attacking returns at that same rate at Man City so far this season? And actually what I found is, yes, he actually is. So far this season, right, Reijnders has played 8 games. And in those 8 games, he's got 1 goal, 2 assists. That's 3 attacking returns, right? So 3 attacking returns in 8 games does also roughly equate to, again, 1 attacking return in every 3 games, 1 in 3 player. This is who Reijnders is, right? Based off his time at AC Milan last season, Reijnders is a 1 in 3 player. And he's actually living up to that standard. He's actually performing at that same rate this season, because he's got 3 attacking returns in 8 games. So what I'm trying to say is here, guys, Reijnders is only doing what he should be doing, really, based off sort of, it's not like he's, catfished us, or it's not like he's actually a fraud, because he's performing at the same rate, at the same standard in terms of goals and assists at Man City as he was at AC Milan as well. So yeah, my point I'm trying to make is here, right, is that I actually think Reijnders is actually just doing what he's expected to do. And what I will say is, if you're not happy with the rate of returns with Reijnders, maybe he's not good enough to be in your starting 11. But maybe he's actually good enough, right? If he does keep up this rate of returns and still does maintain a level of being a 1 in 3 player in terms of goals and assists, maybe at least he's good enough to be a 5th midfielder. Maybe he's not someone that can start in your team week in, week out. But maybe he's good enough to be a 5th midfielder in your team and a rotational piece in your team. And for that reason, I'm actually going to say, I don't think, right, I'm trying to think logically, I'm trying to put my emotions aside. For that reason, I do think you don't have to sell Reijnders. I really don't. Now, one thing I will say, I think for me, the reason why I was very frustrated with Reijnders, and maybe a lot of you are frustrated with Reijnders as well, is because one of the returns that Reijnders got this season did actually come up against, did come up in the game against Arsenal. And, many of you probably like me did bench him this game. I benched him against Arsenal, so I didn't get that return. But still, nonetheless, right, you can see here he's roughly a 1 in 3 type of player. And for that reason, as I said, I would say you don't have to sell him. You can keep him as a rotational piece. Now, one thing I will also say, though, to sort of flip the coin on its head with Reijnders, is a lot of Man City players are coming back from injury. You've got Marmoush coming back from injury. You've got Foden as well fully fit. You've got Cherki coming back from injury. You've got Bernardo Silva fully fit. There is a lot of players that can play in those central positions and play in those central roles. So it does sort of scare me a little bit, especially with Champions League football. Like, will Reijnders start week in, week out? I'm not too sure, right? I'm not too sure. And also, I do think at the start of the season, Tajani Reijnders was absolutely fantastic for 90 minutes, right? It was a 90-minute man, as you guys can see. But in recent weeks, we can see he's getting subbed off. He got subbed off early against Everton, subbed off 75 minutes against Brentford away. I think we're going to continue to see these early substitutions with Tajani Reijnders as long as Man City do have a fully fit squad. So that's where my only concern does come with Tajani Reijnders. But honestly, I had to I really did want to see, if I was overreacting with Tajani Reijnders. And just to conclude, right, just to summarize everything that I'm trying to say, right, just to make it very, very clear, I don't think you need to rush to sell Reijnders. And I can't even believe I'm saying that, because if you watch my reaction video a couple of days ago, you would have seen what I saw, what I said about Tajani Reijnders. You would have seen me call him a fraud. You would have seen me call him a bum. You would have seen me say he has to go. But I've tried to put my emotion aside. I've tried to think logically. I've tried to look at it just from, again, like I said, a logic point of view, and really have almost like a deep dive on Tajani Reijnders. And what I've seen here is that Tajani Reijnders, to summarize, is a 1 in 3 player. So essentially, he's expected to get an attack and return every 3 games, right? 1 attack and return every 3 games. And so far, he's actually maintained that standard. He's kept that standard, right, in the Premier League so far, which for me is the reason why, if you think he's going to maintain that standard, which so far he is, I don't actually think he's a bad pick, especially as a 5th midfielder that can be used as a rotational piece. That's my personal opinion on Tajani Reijnders. Alright guys, so next up, I want to speak about the Crystal Palace players, and more specifically, I want to speak about this amazing trio, Ismaila Sarr, Danny Munoz, and big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. I think all options are absolutely fantastic, and I would definitely recommend buying them, but just not for Game Week 9, right? I wouldn't buy them yet, because they do have a tough game against Arsenal away, and no matter how good of an FPL pick you are, I would never recommend bringing in a player when they're playing against Arsenal away from home. It just doesn't seem like the logical thing to do, in my opinion. Now, listen, first things first, I want to speak about big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta, because this guy is just absolutely incredible right now. I'm not gonna lie, right? He's just coming off the back of a crazy hat-trick against Bournemouth. And first thing that I actually want to go through with big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta is the stats, right? The stats that he produced against Bournemouth, ridiculous, right? Obviously he scored the hat-trick, he scored the 3 goals. He could have got more, by the way. He could have got more. He could have got 4, 5, 6. I mean, look at the chance he missed in the dying seconds of the game where he put it over the bar, right? He could have scored 4 goals that game. But what I want to quickly go through is the stats that he produced against Bournemouth, right? Of course he got the 3 goals, but he racked up 11 shots in that game. 9 of those shots were inside the box, 5 of those shots on target, and he had 6 big chances and racked up 3.48 expected goals, right? He racked up 3.48 expected goals in 1 game. It's absolutely ridiculous, but this is not an anomaly, right? This is not an anomaly. Throughout the course of the season, big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta has been a big chance magnet. Game in, game out. He is there on the end of chances. He is getting such good service, such good chances created for him, and that's why I think he's an amazing FPL pick, because historically, big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta is a player that does more or less equal or outperform his expected goals. So if he's getting this high amount of service, based off what we know of big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta in recent years, we expect him to score a lot of goals, because as I said, he is a player that historically does equal or outperform his expected goals. And that's why for me, I really do think he is a must-have player from Game Week 10 onwards. I mean, so far this season, by the way, he's racked up the 2nd most shots inside the box, and he's also racked up the 2nd most big chances in the league, only behind Erling Haaland. For me, big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta, man, he is a must-have player from Game Week 10 onwards. I'm gonna be real with you guys, man, because look, from Game Week 10, it's Brentford at home, then it's Brighton at home, then it's Wolves away, then it's United at home, then Burnley away, then Fulham away, City at home, a little bit more tough, but still, that's not a bad fixture for an attacker. And then it's Leeds away, then Spurs at home. Listen, I could go on and on and on, but you guys can see here the long-term fixtures are also fantastic, right, for Crystal Palace. And I think when you partner that up with just how dangerous big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta is looking at the moment, I just think he is a player that you want to own for this run. I'm gonna be honest, I think it's looking very, very scary going without big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta for that run, which is why I'm also considering him for my own team, man. I think he is just absolutely amazing, right? If I'm being honest with you guys, and he's on penalties as well. You know, he's gonna start week in, week out. I think the minutes are also really, really good. I think, listen, Mateta more or less is probably gonna get subbed off if Palace are leading comfortably, if Palace are still chasing a game, if Palace need a goal, he ain't coming off the pitch, right? We saw it against Bournemouth. Palace 2-0 down, they need a goal. They bring on Eddie Nketiah. We all are expecting, you know, Mateta to be subbed off, but no, he stays on the pitch. He stays on the pitch, he plays the whole game, and bang, he bags a hat-trick. So what that tells me is that if Palace need a goal, right, big boy Joao Pedro is staying on the pitch. And for that reason, even with European football, I think Mateta will be good for minutes, and I just think he's a great option, right? And the same goes for Ismaila Sarr as well, to be honest with you. I think Ismaila Sarr, another fantastic option, another fantastic attacker, you know, for Crystal Palace. And when you look at the non-penalty expected goal involvement so far this season, Ismaila Sarr is at it ranks third, right? Ranks third for non-penalty expected goal involvement so far this season at 6.5 million. I think he's absolutely amazing. And to be honest with you, what I want to say really, right, with Munoz, with Sarr, with big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta, is that these three players, when Crystal Palace score a goal, right, and like let's just say Crystal Palace score a goal, you see the notification on your phone, you check your phone, who's got the goal, who's got the assist. It's going to be Munoz, Sarr or Mateta. These are the three players really, right, that are always going to be involved in the goals and assists for Crystal Palace. I mean, you've got Daniel Munoz as well, right? I mean, for me, I love Daniel Munoz. He is another player for me where I think you just want to own for Game Week 10 onwards, because the reason why I love him so much is because he's got so, I keep using this analogy, he's got so much in his basket, so many routes to points. The clean sheet potential is quite good for Crystal Palace, but the attacking threat that this man possesses, as someone who's listed as a defender in the game, it's just ridiculous, man. When you watch Crystal Palace, you see Daniel Munoz, he's essentially a winger listed as a defender in the game. So I view Munoz as a winger that can get you clean sheet points. That's just how I view it. I think he's so good for attacking returns. He's always on the, like, putting those crosses into the box. He's always putting those cutbacks into the box. He can appear at the back post, you know, for those shots as well. I just think he's great. I really do just think he's great. The DEFCON potential as well with Daniel Munoz is pretty decent as well. If you actually just go through what his average is, as you guys can see, he's got 7.88 defensive contributions per 90, right? Which isn't too bad at all. I think he's great, right? And when you look at the sort of heat map as well of Daniel Munoz, you can see here, man, he's up and down, up and down, up and down. He is just so good, right? So advanced, so attacking. I love what I see from Daniel Munoz, right? You guys can see I'm glazing hard. I'm not going to lie. I'm glazing really hard, but I just think this Palace trio, I'm going to be honest with you, right? I think having all three might be the play. From Game Week 10 onwards, I think having all three of Daniel Munoz, Ismaila Sarr and big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta might be the way to go. That's my honest opinion. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think all of them are great. Alright guys, so it's time we do speak on the Liverpool players. We do have Salah, Isak, Ekitike and Virgil van Dijk. And I want to start off by talking about Salah and Virgil van Dijk. I'm going to be honest, for me, both of these players are an immediate sell. I would definitely recommend selling Salah. I would definitely recommend selling Van Dijk. Firstly, with Van Dijk, right, Liverpool do not look like they can keep a clean sheet at all at the moment. So for me, when you look at the fixtures coming up, Brentford away next. After Brentford, they've got Aston Villa at home, then City away. Bro, in the next 3 games, I genuinely could not see, you know, Van Dijk keeping any clean sheets. Of course, he could potentially get defensive contributions, but at 6 million, you need clean sheets, right? That is your bread and butter. As a 6 million defender, if you can't give me clean sheets as a bare minimum, I'm sorry, you've got to go, right? You've got to go. Defensive contributions is nice for the cheaper defenders like your Senessis, your Andersons, your Chris Richards, but at 6 million, I need you to be stepping up your clean sheet game. And right now, right, Liverpool do not look like they can keep a clean sheet whatsoever. Defensively, they look so vulnerable. So far this season, they've conceded 21 big chances, which is joint 4th highest, right? So they're looking real spooky right now in terms of how bad the defense is, and on the eye you can see it. And there's a lot of times when I watch Liverpool where teams do create good attacking scenarios, but it doesn't end in a shot. So the stats won't pick that up. But what I see a lot, right, is Liverpool being caught out on transition, for example. Maybe a late interception or a late tackle is made. But I see a lot of times where teams get into good attacking scenarios and maybe the final pass that the team makes is bad, so it doesn't result in a shot. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is when I watch Liverpool, I don't think their defense is great. I don't think it really is. So for me, I think Van Dijk is a sell, right? Also, especially if you don't have an Arsenal defender or a Newcastle defender, for example, I think value-wise they're a lot better than Virgil van Dijk at the moment. Now, another thing I want to say is Mohamed Salah, this absolute fraud. It's time to go, guys. I'm going to be honest. I didn't think I would be saying this, but honestly, I don't think Salah is worth. I mean, he cost 14.4 million, guys. That is serious though. He is the second most expensive player in FPL at the moment, and he is simply not producing. It's 3 blanks in the last 3 games, but over the course of the season, it's just not even about the last 3 games. Over the course of the season, he has stunk out the gaff. At first, he was scamming FPL points. He was scamming last minute goals, last minute assists, getting a lucky penalty here and there. But now the luck has run out. The luck has run out, and now Mohamed Salah right now is just looking like an absolute bum. I'm gonna be honest with you, and he is definitely not worth that 14.4 million. You guys that watch the channel, you guys know I've got Salah in my team, and I'm looking to take him out. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I want to sell him. Yes, I do know the fixtures for an attacker, right, are not too bad, especially in Game Week 13. Liverpool have some decent fixtures, but I just don't think he's worth the money. He's getting outperformed by players like Gakpo, for example. He's getting outperformed by Gakpo, who is half the price. And yeah, you look at Salah and you think he's guaranteed to start, he's guaranteed to get good minutes, but even in the last game, yeah, he started, but he got subbed off. Guys, that was really the breaking point for me, and that's where I really started to panic as a Salah owner, right? Last game against Manchester United, Liverpool are chasing, they need a goal, and what does Onslaught do? He subs off Mohamed Salah. We have reached a new low with this player. We have reached a new low, and it's very concerning, because in my opinion, that shows now that Onslaught has had enough. That shows now, right, that Salah could even be rotated, could even be benched, right, in the odd game. Who knows? But Onslaught right now, it does seem like he's seeing what everyone else is seeing, and Salah is massively underperforming. I just think right now, ultimately, right, is Salah worth that 14.4 million price tag? Absolutely no. And for that reason, he has to go. It's simple as that. That's my personal opinion. I just don't think he's worth the money. There's so many better options. If you're someone that doesn't have Bukayo Saka, for example, you can sell Salah. You can bring in a Bukayo Saka. You can bring in a Brian Mbeumo, for example, if you want him. A Bruno Fernandes, if you even want him. But I just think there's so many better options in the game that are better than Mohamed Salah. On no way on God's green earth is Mohamed Salah worth the money, right? And to be fair, I will say, yes, against Man United, you could say he was pretty unlucky not to walk away with a couple of assists, right? He did create 2 good chances for Gakpo. Gakpo hit the post twice from 2 Salah assists. But you know what? Whether or not Salah even just got 1 assist, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. Even if Salah walked away with just 1 assist from that game, right? Because ultimately, not every chance you create, someone is going to score. So let's just say, out of the 2 good chances he created for Gakpo, right? Let's say Gakpo scored 1 of them. Even if Salah walked away from that game with 1 assist, as a £14.4 million asset, it's just simply not good enough. So for me, whatever way you look at it, Salah is just not worth that price tag. He's not worth it. And for me, he's a sell. I'm going to be honest. I really do think he's a sell. When I watch Liverpool play, he's so poor. The detail, the quality in his actions are just really poor, right? Really poor. And what I've noticed is well with Liverpool, I said it on the watch along that we did yesterday, right? What I've noticed so far with Liverpool is that when a team sits in a deep block, players like Salah struggle, and the Liverpool attack in general, they really do struggle playing against those deeper blocks. And I think where Liverpool thrive is on transition. That's really where they do thrive, and that's really where in spells, even against Manchester United, where Liverpool did look dangerous, is on that transition. Maybe they pressed high, they won the ball in the midfield, and bang, you've got like a 2 versus 3 scenario, or 3 versus 4 scenario, and Liverpool can pounce and attack with directness and speed. That's where they look frightening, right, on those transitions. But when a team sits up in a deep block, right, players like Salah struggle. I've seen it game after game after game. Liverpool attackers, they do struggle. So for me, I just think Salah is an easy sell in my opinion, and realistically the same goes for Isak. If you're one of those players that did buy Isak, I would be selling, because I think his place in that Liverpool starting 11 is at risk. I'll be real with you guys, it is massively at risk, because ultimately we've all watched Liverpool play. Ekitike has clearly been Liverpool's best attacker, right? So, and Gakpo right now has hit some form as well. So Gakpo is going to be a starter. And if Arne Slot is a serious manager, he's going to bench Isak. He's going to bench Isak, and he's going to make Ekitike the starting number 9, because even against Manchester United, when we saw Ekitike come onto the pitch, he looked 10 times better than Alexander Isak. 10 times better. He looked so much more sharper, right? He looked more energetic, more direct. He had more quality in his touches, in his dribbling, right? In his overall general play, he looked so much better than Alexander Isak. So for me, I would say if you got Isak, you got to sell him. You got to sell him because he's a risk. He is not going to be a guaranteed starter. He's not a 90-minute man. Liverpool attack stinks right now. I would sell him. I would sell Isak. I would sell Van Dijk. I would sell Salah. The only player I wouldn't sell is Gakpo if you got him. I think Gakpo is looking pretty good at the moment, especially given the fact that, you know, he's actually the cheapest out of all these Liverpool attackers. And I think Ekitike as well looks like a good pick. All right, guys, so let's speak about Joao Pedro. Should you buy him? Should you sell him? Well, I'm doubting a lot of people are actually going out their way to buy Joao Pedro. But listen, for me, my opinion on Joao Pedro right now is he is in the sort of don't buy but don't sell category. I think if you don't have him already, I wouldn't be buying him, to be fair. But if you do have him already, I don't think I would be selling him, because I just think selling him right now, for me, when he's got Sunderland at home, Spurs away, Wolves at home, Burnley away, Arsenal at home is tough, but then Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, I really do find it hard to sell a player like this and with these fixtures. And I know he has massively underperformed in recent weeks. Of course, you know, he blanked against Man United, but to be fair, Chelsea had 10 men. He blanked against Brighton, but Chelsea had 10 men. Obviously, a blank against Liverpool at home. Didn't really look too threatening, wasn't really involved, got subbed early, and then another blank against Forest away. Now, against Forest, he could have got a return. You know, he did get close to scoring, but more so, he got close to getting an assist, right? But yeah, other than that, he didn't really look massively threatening. So it is concerning, especially as someone who does own Joao Pedro as well, but it's just the type of player I am. You guys might be different to me. You might be a bit more cutthroat, a bit more aggressive. But I just do find it hard to take out a player who potentially is on penalties as well. With good minutes, we know he's going to start. With these fixtures, I just do find it really, really hard. So that's why for me, I'm not going to recommend you buying him. But if you do already have him in your team, I would just keep him, man. I really would just keep him, because those fixtures there are really, really good. Now, of course, when you look at the underlying data, when you look at Chelsea play as a team, you don't really see, he's like the complete opposite. Like, when we were talking about big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta, we were talking about a player that's a chance magnet. We were talking about a player getting chance after chance after chance after chance, getting really, really close to scoring, right? So you've got, you know, big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta on one side, and you've got on the completely other side of the spectrum, Joao Pedro, who is getting next to nothing week in, week out, not getting a lot of chances, doesn't look threatening, doesn't like scoring goals. So I do understand the frustrations with Joao Pedro is completely justified. For me, my only reason is it is just a pure fixtures play. It's a pure fixtures play. Sometimes I do believe that fixtures do build good form. Obviously, Sunderland actually isn't, you know, the necessarily easiest game, right? It's a green fixture on the fixture ticker. This could be a great fixture, but I will say, because Chelsea at home, I do expect them to win quite convincingly. If they're away from home, I think it would be a different story. But nonetheless, Sunderland isn't as easy as we always thought, but still, I do think it's a good fixture for Chelsea, especially, as I said, because it's at home. And you got like Wolves at home as well. Like, I just think there's just so many good fixtures there for Chelsea. Taking out Joao Pedro, for me, I just don't think I can recommend you doing it. Now, what I will say is, this is one thing that I will say, right, with Joao Pedro, is this week, definitely wouldn't take him out. However, in game week 10, right, in game week 10, if you do not have big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta in your team, and you have no other way of getting Mateta other than selling Joao Pedro, I think I would do it. Let me know what you guys do think of that. I know it's a frustrating situation, but it really is hard to say sell Joao Pedro with those fixtures. But yeah, let me know what you guys do think, and let's move on to the next players. So next up, I wanted to speak to you guys about the Arsenal assets. As you guys can see, we got Gyökeres, Saka, Eze, Gabriel, Timber. First things first, right? The Arsenal defense is a complete must-have. I actually do think having double or triple Arsenal defense is completely the way to go. Arsenal, seriously, this season is very clear. They just are the best defense in the league, and I think you need at least a minimum of two Arsenal defenders. Whether it's Rayo and Gabriel, whether it's Gabriel and Timber, look, it's free for you to choose. But I just think, for me, the best two Arsenal defenders are Timber and Gabriel. But yeah, if you've got Rayo already in your team, you don't need to sell him immediately to get Timber. That's fine, in my opinion anyway, right? So yeah, Arsenal defense is a complete must-have. I love it. And One thing I want to touch on, right, is Gabriel and, you know, his rate of defensive contributions. I think once again he was so close to getting the extra points for defensive contributions in the last game against Fulham, and I didn't expect Gabriel to sort of be so good for defensive contributions, because Arsenal typically are a team that, you know, really dominate and control games. They dominate possession, and like I said, they have so much control, and teams don't really test their backline that much, especially the weaker teams. And in the easier games, Gabriel was someone who has actually still managed to really do well for defensive contributions, and it's got me thinking, why has there been a change in play style, not with Arsenal but with other teams and the way they play against Arsenal? And I feel like what's happening maybe, right, is teams against Arsenal are sort of bypassing the midfield and not playing through the midfield, and instead going maybe longer. That's what I think I've noticed a little bit more. So the weaker teams are going longer, and as a result, Gabriel is making more defensive contributions. Like maybe they're either going long and bypassing the midfield, and when they get into the wide areas as well, they're putting crosses into the box, right? And that's very easy for Gabriel to defend, and I think maybe that's why Gabriel is getting these defensive contributions. I'm not totally sure, but at the moment, that's what it seems like. And I do definitely want to dig into it a bit more, and I do want to sort of rewatch a lot of Arsenal's games, their extended highlights, and see. But at the moment, of face value of what I can remember, right, I feel like teams are going a bit longer against Arsenal, right? Because I didn't expect Gabriel to be so good for defensive contributions. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that he's amazing for defensive contributions. The clean sheet potential is there. I think right now Gabriel is just a must-have defender. The attacking threat from set pieces is there. The clean sheet potential is there. The DEFCON potential is there. There is no reason on God's green earth why you should not have Gabriel in your team, right? That is just my honest opinion. So yeah, let me know what you guys do think of that, and let me know if you have any reasons as to why you think Gabriel's actually been a lot better for defensive contributions, especially in these easier fixtures. I would love to know your thoughts and what you've maybe noticed when watching Arsenal play. But yeah, I think Gabriel, Timber, definitely the best two Arsenal defenders to go for. Now, another thing I want to say, Eze, Saka, Gyökeres. Now, first things first, what I want to say is I want to start off with Saka, right? We saw him get 7 points without getting any goals or assists in the last game against Fulham. Managed to get defensive contributions and managed to get bonus points, and looked really good. Really good. I mean, from an attacking point of view, he was Arsenal's best player on the pitch, right, against Fulham. Created a few chances, got close to scoring as well. Was just really a great outlet for Arsenal in that game. And I think, look, for me, the best three Arsenal players, right, for FPL, for me, is Gabriel, Timber and Saka. These are the three Arsenal players you want, which is why for me, I would say at this moment in time, I wouldn't go for Eze. I mean, we also saw him get subbed off quite early in the 60th minute for, I think it was Marino, right? So for me, I just don't think you should go for Eze. I think if you want Arsenal players, it should be Saka, Gabriel, Timber. So Eze for me, I would say is an avoid. Now with Gyökeres, a lot of people already have Gyökeres, and what a lot of people are asking me is, should they be selling Victor Gyökeres? Now for me, listen to what I'm about to say, right? Because I know you might be, when I say no, you're going to be like, oh, here he goes again. What is he talking about? He doesn't know what he's talking about. But listen, what I'm trying to say with Gyökeres, right, is this week specifically for game week 9, would I sell Gyökeres this week? My answer is no, because I don't think there's a standard option to go for, right? If you don't have Mateta, it doesn't matter because you're playing against Arsenal away. I would not be selling Mateta for Gyökeres when they're playing against each other. Absolutely not, right? So I wouldn't be getting Mateta this week. Who else is there to get? So for me, I think keeping Gyökeres for one more week is the play, and then in game week 10 you can reassess. If Gyökeres looks really bad on the eye once again, if Gyökeres doesn't get a lot of chances, then you could make an argument for selling Gyökeres, even though he does play against Burnley and Sunderland, right? You could make an argument for selling him, especially for someone like big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. To be fair to Gyökeres, right, what I will say is that I do think Gyökeres owners were quite unfortunate. Like, I'm noticing in recent weeks, Gyökeres seems to be getting more chances. Like, Gyökeres could have scored against Fulham, and that's what I will say. That's the key thing for me. It's not like Joao Pedro, where he's stinking up the place, not looking like scoring at all, getting no shots off, no big chances created for him. I don't think Gyökeres is like in that same mode like a Joao Pedro, for example. He's actually getting chances. You know, against West Ham, got close to scoring. Against Fulham, got close to scoring on a few occasions, right? So he's getting the chances in recent weeks, and I think the underlying data also does support that for Gyökeres. You know, he's had 18 shots inside the box so far this season, which is the 3rd highest, right? He's also 4th for non-penalty expected goal involvement this season, right? So I think the underlying data is growing and it's getting better for Gyökeres. And I think with these fixtures coming up, Crystal Palace at home, Burnley away, Sunderland away, I do think his chances of scoring are really, really good. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. That is going to be it though. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, smash a like on the video. If you could get 100 likes, that would be absolutely fantastic. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all the love and support on the channel. It's been your boy FPL Ryan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, I'm out. Peace.